This is a little video I did the other day. I've taken a ball peen hammer and built a hawk out of it, tomahawk. So I'm using a 5-pound straight peen hammer here, and you can see I'm throwing a little power in that because everything is jumping around, including the camera. You can really see how the peening side of that hammer has a fullering effect on as you pound on this and flatten this out, the outsides of the metal try to pass the insides, and you'll be able to see that here because I slowed it up here so you can see it. So what you have to do is you have to drive that into the anvil face, and you'll see that in a little. I've added my fart fan blower to the blower on this, so I don't have to stand there and crank on this. When you're doing these bigger pieces like this, it's a lot easier not to have to stand there and crank in between hammering. And that little fan's just got a couple of hooks on it and just hangs over the suction hole on that hand crank forge. Works real good. You can see that even with that big hammer, my anvil doesn't jump around very much. A lot of that has to do with the way the anvil is mounted to the block, and then the block is good and level on the deck of the trailer. It works pretty good. This video is compressed from about, it's about probably 4 hours over 2 days of forging on this thing. Now, I've done this where I'm driving this down onto the face of the anvil. This is a process that I did all along this video, and that's how you keep the edges of your hawk from rolling over and getting folded up as you're pounding on it. You can see I switched hammers here. This is a little 2-pound rounding hammer. So I've switched hammers here again for doing the finish work on the edge of the blade. This little hammer, I've dressed it down. It's got a pretty flat face on it, and so it allows you to take the hammer marks out along the edge there a little better. Looks pretty good. just kind of finishing up the front side of this. I cut out the part of the video where I did the back of this hawk, the hammer, the pole on this. I did part of it on this anvil, and then I did part of it in the air hammer. And you'll get a chance to see the air hammer in action here in a little bit. So we've moved inside here to the inside shop. So I've taken a chisel and I'm driving this chisel down through the hole in this head because the drift I use for the tomahawk style handle is just a little bit too big for the hole, the existing hole. So I'm just slitting that out a little bit. It makes getting the drift in there a lot easier. Okay, so here what you're looking at is the jaws on one of my big post vices, and I've adjusted them just wide enough so the drift will fit down in between the two jaws, and I'm just driving that drift down through there. What you can't see is there's a slack bucket sitting in front of the air hammer right there, and once I get this drove down to where I think I can't drive it anymore, then I'll pop it out and I'll throw it in the slack bucket. What you're looking at in the background is the KA-75 air hammer and the gulp tank, which I mounted on the ceiling to be out of the way. And the air tends to stay warmer too in that tank sitting like that, so I have a lot less problems freezing up. So I've got that tank, and then I've got the 60-gallon tank that's on the compressor, so I've got quite a bit of storage. I can get about 40 strikes out of the air hammer without having it, the compressor kick on. So I'm just driving this down, just keep driving this down from the top side. I drove it in from the bottom side once to kind of flare out the bottom, and then from here on out I'll drive it in from the top, so you know the flare's in the right direction. And then when I move over to the anvil, what I'm doing is I'm thinning out the bottom of the head a little bit where the drift goes in, kind of making a little ear. It kind of drops down into the handle, and you'll be able to see it better later. So I'm standing on a big 2x8, I think it's a 2x8. It's about 3 feet long and 3 feet wide and 4.5, 5 feet long. And then the anvil stand and the vice stands are mounted to that glue lam that I'm standing on. And then the air hammer is mounted on a piece of concrete that's the same height as the glue lam, so everything's on the same level. It makes for a really stable platform to work on, and everything's really close. And then the forge is on a swing arm just out of frame onto the right, and you'll be able to see it because I've moved the camera several times here. You'll be able to see the swing arm that I can put any forge I have on. I've got a little coal forge that fits on it, and then my propane forge will also sit on this, so I can swing it around into any position that is comfortable to use. So here what I'm doing is I'm working on the little tabs, thinning up the bottom part of this, and I'm using a die that I made out of the handle out of a boomer, off of an old chain boomer. I just cut it off, rounded it up. works pretty good. Now, of course, I've switched hammers again. I'm using a Swiss or French style cross-peen hammer here. The face is concaved in one direction on those hammers. And so for doing this kind of work, it works pretty good. Where you're trying to move the material in one direction. So that little anvil there is a little 100-pound hay budden that belonged to my grandfather. And it really sings when you use it. So right here what I'm doing is I'm using the other side of that tool, and I'm cleaning up the edges of the pole on the head. And you can see that the air hammer, it makes doing all this kind of stuff so much easier. You know, it's just, you can use both hands and a foot. And then I'm going to clean up the top. And then I'm going to come around and I'm going to clean up the lines on the pole. The top die on this sticks over on the left hand side there about 3 inches past the bottom die, which allows you to do some flattening, and it works real slick. There you can see the forge and the swing arm and the other foot vise, post vise. I've mounted a little piece of hardened block in this vise on this side. Some people call them a blade anvil. It's just a little piece of 3-inch by 3-inch air hardened steel. So right here I'm just doing the final dress down on the head, on the blade. And then what I'm going to do is I'll put it back in, and we're going to anneal it. And what I do is I'll take it, I'll heat it up to where it's good and hot, where a magnet won't stick to it. I kind of can tell by color anymore. And then I'm going to dump it in a bucket of ash and let it sit until tomorrow morning, and then I'll go ahead and finish it tomorrow morning and then harden it. If you guys have gotten this far in the video, thank you. Like it, share it, let me know what you think. As you can tell, I've been enjoying this GoPro camera an awful lot. If you have any questions, the easiest way to get a hold of me is on my Facebook site, which is Running Iron, that's one word, Works, at Facebook. Just friend me. And I hope you guys enjoyed it.